here with more. Fox News contributor, former deputy FBI director, our friend Dan Bongino is back. Okay, if you can explain, at a time of war with the #1 state sponsor of terror, obviously an increase in the threat level in this country, why would they not fund the Department of Homeland Security, which, by the way, whose budget should have been funded on October 1st of last year?
Because they like to make people hurt. You know, Occam's razor, Sean, right? You accept the explanation that requires you to assume the least. Why do the Democrats hurt the American people often, using the same government they claim is a benevolent force in the American people's lives as a weapon against them? The answer? Because they want to. They seem to be enjoying this. But there was that one representative, I can't recall the name right this second. There's an article on Axios that highlighted him actually saying, "We're making the people hurt." I mean, that's an actual quote. They're enjoying every bit of this. Keep in mind, the president has already made, because he's a negotiator, a number of concessions on the issue because he's a deal maker and he has to make deals. He can't overcome a supermajority in the Senate right now, so he has to make deals. The Democrats who are watching, I saw this morning something in Atlanta about a 4-hour notification to get there for 4 hours. Some of the flights out of Atlanta are only an hour or two long. You're going to spend 4 hours going to, and the Democrats, by the way, they have no plan to open this up, Sean. They want, wait, one more thing I don't want the American people to forget about. You know, the Democrats love talking about big government, how there's such a benevolent force in your life, and yet they use it to screw you every single place they do it. Remember the last shutdown? That was over Obamacare, that they told you would make the cost of health care cheaper. Then they shut down the government because they needed more taxpayer money to pay for the Obamacare they said would be cheaper. And did anyone in the media cover that outside of, right-leaning media sites? Nope. They ignored the whole thing.
This Loyola, this Venezuelan that killed this 18-year-old, another Biden-Harris illegal. You have an older woman in Chicago that said, well, the student happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, the illegal immigrant had no business being here. And her party let him in, and they lied to the country for 4 straight years, Dan. And they said the border's closed, the border's secure. That's about as big a lie as Joe was cognitively aware while he was president.
Sean, as I'm watching, I'm in the mind of the liberal pro-open border lunatics right now. I know what they're going to say to what you just said. They're going to say, well, the rate of crime by people here illegally is lower than you. I dispute that because the rate of crime is 100%. They all broke the law by coming in. However, even if you accept that as true, which I don't, by the way, because they don't even know half the data on this matter, right? Even if you accept that, none of these people should be here. None of them should be here. There should be 0 murders from illegal migrants in the country because they're here illegally. Every single one of them committed a crime. They violated the law by not coming in legally at a port of entry. This is totally preventable. Do you think it's an accident? I heard Donald Trump in Memphis today talking about the unbelievable crime successes we've had around the country with his leadership. You think that's an accident? You think when you shut the border down to 0 illegal migrants admitted into the country, and then the murder rate and crime rate collapses to the lowest in recorded U.S. history, you think that's unrelated? I mean, in some circles, again, Sean, we call that a clue. But the dipwads in the media are like, gee, I don't know. Let me scratch my head. What the hell happened? Well, we arrested bad guys and shut down the border. That's what happened. It wasn't like Einstein's theory of relativity. It was just the guy in charge in the White House who said, hey, I got this crazy idea. How about we shut down the border and arrest bad guys? And look what happened. Now you've got the safest America in recorded history.
Yeah, and by the way, you were a big part of it with Kash Patel. FBI numbers, you got, what, 7 of the 10 most wanted in a year? Pretty impressive. By every measure, crime is down, especially violent crime. Dan, great to have you, as always. Thank you for being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.